Welcome to Dotagy. What is internet intelligence and how does it work? Well, let's start by understanding what it is we're trying to do. We're trying to find web pages, otherwise known as URLs. These things. I think you get the picture. These web pages or URLs are out there on the internet and they may be damaging your brand in several ways. Legitimate consumers thinking they are getting a good deal for a genuine item, only to be very disappointed with what they receive and blaming the brand for poor quality. Counterfeiters diverting traffic and potentially real revenue to themselves and not to the brand owner who has invested the time and the money into development and marketing. Reputation management, the right to reply to someone unhappy or having a complaint, giving them a forum, but also providing you with a chance to correct a misunderstanding. Watching out for cyber squatters or people trying to leverage your brand as a free money scheme. There are lots of reasons why you might want to find these web pages or URLs, and these are just some. So where does it start and how does it work? Well, everything starts from a domain name. We're looking at a URL here. The part just after the HTTP and up until the next slash is the domain name or subdomain. Don't get bogged down in terminology here. But the www is called a subdomain, and the owner of the domain name in this example, tradesy.com, can create as many of those as they like after they have registered tradesy.com itself, which is just the domain name. The most common subdomains you see on the internet are things like www, mail, or the names of specific things like news, sport, travel. The domain name itself is made up of a string, which is the part to the left of the dot, and the extension, the part to the right. Why am I telling you this? Well, because there are over 300 extensions available today, and 600 more have been or will be launched by the time we reach 2017. So that means someone could register Tradesy, the string, with up to 900 different extensions, like .com, .net, .cheap, .lux. That's a lot to worry about. Without a domain name, you cannot have a web page, URL or link. It's as simple as that. So everything begins here with the registration of a domain name. When a domain name is registered, it doesn't immediately get a website. Most domain name providers or registrars will actually point the registered domain name at their holding page until the owner decides to do something with it. A holding page just normally says coming soon or registered by as a bit of cheap publicity for a registrar themselves. So my first source of information is domain names. We saw with the webinar on portfolio strategy that you can use Dotagy to see the gaps in your current portfolio and then to watch when something happens to these domain names. That might be as simple as a domain name activation, the creation of a website, rather than a holding page. It could be changes in the public whois information or changes specifically to a single web page. And with the new GTLDs, around 600 extensions are being launched, and you can configure Dotagy to alert you to the registration of these domain names using a string or strings of your choosing. That's called a domain alert, and you don't need a TMCH in order to activate it. So that covers what I don't have and what someone else might be trying to register without me knowing or necessarily being able to proactively stop. But what about everything else? Well, that's a great question, but ask yourself, where do you or I look when we want to find out something on the internet? The answer 99% of the time is we use a search engine like Google, and so can Dotagy. Search engines index millions of pages every day on the internet. It's their sole purpose to spider or crawl the internet looking for web pages and categorizing them. That way, when you or I type keywords into a search engine, it tries to show us the most relevant web pages, that's URLs or links, it's the same thing, for our query. Most website creators want to be found. Even the counterfeiters want to be found because it increases their traffic, which in turn should increase their online conversions into sales. In other cases, fraudsters are trying to spoof loyal brand customers into coming to their fake websites, using phishing or slamming emails that contain a link to a website that looks almost identical to the real thing. In these cases, they're not so interested in being found by search engines, but being clicked upon by you or me. So now if we have search results that Google can provide, plus the historic domains already registered that we want to keep an eye on, and the new GTLDs that someone might be registering, what's left? Well, what about the marketplace sites such as eBay, Taobao, Alibaba? Well, again, these are just more sources of information. Sites like eBay really encourage people to find their listings, so they have opened up many ways to get at this information. They also have been and are one of the most proactive marketplaces to try and reduce counterfeit merchandise being distributed, whilst at the same time protecting their sellers' rights. At the end of the day, a listing on eBay is yet another web page, URL or link, but the domain name part does not change. We've not even touched upon mobile applications or social media at this point, but you understand the principle. Once you have all this information, the next step is to really examine it in as much detail as possible. So you can say, nothing hurting me here at the moment, but keep watching it. Or actually, something doesn't look right about this and I need to take a closer look. For example, a domain name has been registered with the extension .cheap. The correct thing to do here is to check for an active website, and if one does not exist, wait for one to be created. If a website does exist, put in place a watch so that when it changes, you know. Any other pages for this domain name can be passed with Google results into a second phase of keyword and logo matching on the pages themselves. So not just detecting interesting things using my keywords as search results, but really examining the content on the web page itself. As you might imagine, there are a great deal of fan pages on the internet, so a set of search results from Google doesn't prove anything. If someone is using a logo that is not authorized or saying defamatory things about your mark or brand that are unsubstantiated, and you found grey market or counterfeit products, all of these allow you to start an action against the problem, be it technical or legal. In the case of listings on marketplaces, as mentioned, there are mechanisms like eBay Vero Takedown designed exactly to help the trademark owner. The time and effort to follow these steps manually can be enormous, especially if it's not your day job. Secondary to this, you want to answer the most important question, am I winning? That's the part that probably needs the most careful consideration and thought before you start down this path. If you do not know the key indicators to success, you might never be able to reach them. For example, I've limited the amount of counterfeit product on a marketplace by X% this year compared to last year. I've now blocked repeated counterfeit sellers' route to market through trend analysis of their activity over the last 6 months. We've halved our UDRP and URS costs by investing in protection mechanisms like DPML, and we now don't own useless domain names. We've been responding to negative feedback we've been receiving on one of our new products through social media. We've caught a serial cyber squatter against our brand when they activated one of X domain names they registered using our trademark. These are all examples of what you could be trying to target. It just depends on what you want to achieve.